Welcome everybody to this new channel. My name is Ricardo, I'm Spanish, I'm not an English native speaker as you can see probably. The reason I created this channel is because there are lots of channels on YouTube teaching you how to speak Spanish, how to speak English, how to speak German, Chinese and many other languages. But I'm an English philologist and I'm more interested in linguistics and especially the area that covers what happens in your mind when you're acquiring a second language and to talk about languages in general. Did you ever wonder why some bilingual people mix their languages in the same sentences? That's called code switching, and that's our first topic. I hope you enjoy it. What's code switching? Code switching is literally the use of different elements from different languages, not only words. You can put in a sentence in English part of a structure in Spanish. I mean the structure a Spanish speaker use for building their sentences, for example. An example of code switching could be I want to drink agua, which means I want to drink water. And the reason why code switching takes place is not still clear 100%, but there are some theories around it. One of these reasons is called the unitary language system hypothesis. According to this, it takes place because the kids still don't distinguish between their languages. You can have a kid and teach him English and then his mother is Spanish speaker or German speaker. This kid is going to have two languages, but he's still in his earlier stage of development, so at this stage he's not supposed to distinguish both languages, and that's why he or she mixes both languages. Another one is called gap filling hypothesis. What the kid does is that he or she puts word from the second language in a sentence that it's already in the first language. For example, the kid is speaking English and then he uses a word in Spanish. And this can be produced by two different reasons at least. One of them is because the kid doesn't remember the word in English, so he uses his second language. Well, he actually can be using the second language to express himself and then use a word in the first language. It can be used both ways. And the other reason could be because the word that the kid is going to use doesn't exist in one of the languages. So that's why he or she uses this other word to try to express anything in an appropriate way. But the thing is that he or she cannot do it in the first or the second language, in only one language. This takes us to a third hypothesis, which are the grammatical explanations. This means that the kid is going to use a second language to make emphasis to something. I mean, maybe he's going to quote somebody and then he wants to make emphasis on what this person said before. Or maybe the kid feels more comfortable, more emotional using one language or another. Of course, there is a fourth hypothesis, which are the social norms. Social norms can force children to use one language or another. Maybe it's not well seen to speak a determined language in a determined environment because of these people, maybe because of political reasons, maybe because of familiar reasons, maybe because of many other reasons. And obviously there are different kinds of code switching because this phenomenon doesn't take place always the same way. One of them is called inter-sentential switching. This happens unconsciously during the conversation. An example of this is the one I explained previously. Imagine a kid is talking or somebody is talking in English and then he puts a word in Spanish, for example. That is inter-sentential switching. But at the same time, we've got another type of switching, which is called intra-sentential switching. In this case, this kind of switching takes place consciously. And an example of this one is that the person is speaking in English and then he finishes the sentence in a different language with no interruption. And the third kind of switching that I was going to talk about today, it's called tag switching. This is really similar to the intra-sentential switching, but in this case what we put in their sentence in a second language is a tag word, for example. The thing is, you can be talking maybe in Spanish or in German and then you say this, you know, and then continue your conversation in German or Spanish or whatever the language you speak. But remember, we cannot mistake the phenomenon of tag switching for that of borrowing. The main difference between these two phenomena is that in the case of borrowing, the expression, the tag that we are using is already integrated in the second language. I mean, I can be speaking Spanish and then in a sentence I use the word amazing. For example, I can be saying in Spanish, te ves amazing con esa gafa, which means in English, you look amazing with those glasses. The thing is, amazing, even though it's an English word, is already integrated in the vocabulary of Spanish speakers, and it uses Spanish word, even though it's not. In the case of tag switching, the word is not integrated. So in the case of borrowing, doesn't mean that the person speaks English. In the case of tag switching, the person who does tag switching speaks English. That's the main difference between them. So now the $1 million question is, all this about code switching, all this about what we have been talking about now, is it good for bilingual people? Is it good for people? It seems pretty clear nowadays that it is. But the thing is that some years ago, it wasn't that clear. In fact, in the United States, they thought that was something bad. They thought that this provoked a kind of semi-bilingualism in kids that interfered in their development and all that. Even though nowadays we already know it is really good that the bilingual people perform better in non-verbal and in verbal measures. It is really easy for them, for example, to learn a third or a fourth language because they already know how languages work. I mean, in the sense that their brain is like differently constructed, if we can say that. Well, that's all so far. If you are interested in more videos and you liked it, don't forget to press like and subscribe, share it with your friends, family, and I'll see you in more videos.